My name is Elizabeth. I'm 39 years old. I never imagined I'd be sitting here trying to put this into words, but I have to. I have to because keeping it inside is suffocating me. For so long, I smiled through the pain, convinced myself that if I ignored it, it would hurt less. But it didn't. It only grew, twisting inside me, leaving me feeling hollow, forgotten. I don't know if telling my story will change anything, but maybe, just maybe, it would help me breathe again. So, if you're watching this, please just listen. I could no longer stand the tension that had been building up inside me. Daniel, 45 years old, my husband, had become distant, consumed by his work and his growing interest in Allison, 19 years old, that young, captivating university student. Every time I saw them together, the way he looked at her, the way she responded, it cut me deeper than I could put into words. She was young, full of life, and I was becoming increasingly aware of how little I could do to hold on to what we had. Allison, with her confidence and effortless beauty, was everything I was not. The way she wore those tight little skirts, the way she carried herself with such self-assuredness, it was impossible for me not to compare myself to her. Her every movement seemed calculated, like she knew the effect she had on everyone around her, including Daniel. And the worst part was, he was enchanted by it. The subtle glances, the soft touches that lingered just a little too long. It was all happening right before my eyes. I could feel the cracks in my marriage widening as I watched Daniel and Allison grow closer. I couldn't bear it any longer. I had to do something, anything, to reclaim what I had lost. It was then that I noticed him, the young man in his mid-20s standing in the corner of a cafe. He had that energy about him, that youth I had long forgotten. I felt my heart skip a beat. He looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes, an invitation, a challenge. Without thinking, I approached him. The conversation was light, casual at first, but there was something in his gaze that made me feel alive again. We talked for a while, and before I knew it, he was asking me out. The excitement, the thrill, the sense of being desired again, it was exactly what I had been craving, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of something I hadn't felt in years. We didn't waste any time. The connection between us was immediate, and as we spent time together, something shifted inside of me. It wasn't just about escaping my troubled marriage. It was about reclaiming my sense of self. With him, I felt younger, more vibrant. I felt as though I was no longer just Daniel's wife, but a woman in her own right, someone full of potential. The more I was with him, the more I realized how much I had been holding back. I had allowed Daniel's indifference, his emotional distance, to convince me that I was no longer worthy of excitement or attention. But here I was with this young man, feeling as though I had something to prove, not to anyone else, but to myself. I was still a woman, still someone who could captivate, still someone who could make a man want her. As I thought about it, I realized that this was my way of teaching Daniel a lesson. If he could give his attention so easily to Allison, if he could fall for her youthful charm, then I would show him what it felt like to be desired by someone else. It wasn't about revenge, not exactly. It was more about reclaiming my own sense of power, my own identity that I had lost somewhere along the way. As I thought about it, I realized that this was my way of teaching Daniel a lesson. If he could give his attention so easily to Allison, if he could fall for her youthful charm, then I would show him what it felt like to be desired by someone else. It wasn't about revenge, not exactly. It was more about reclaiming my own sense of power, my own identity that I had lost somewhere along the way. I couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph. Every time I was with him, I felt like I was winning back the woman I had forgotten, the woman who deserved more than just the role of the wife who quietly suffered. With him, I felt alive again, and in a strange way, it was exactly what I needed. I wasn't just making up for lost time. I was reminding myself that I was still desirable, still powerful, and that somehow made everything else seem bearable. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that this was a turning point. I had been so consumed by the pain of Daniel's betrayal, so focused on the hurt that I could barely see the possibility of my own liberation. But now I could see it clearly. I wasn't just reacting to Daniel's indifference, I was actively choosing to take control of my life, to reassert myself in ways that felt true to who I was. As the days passed, I continued to see him. Our encounters were brief but intense, filled with a heat and desire that had been missing from my life for so long. I couldn't deny it any longer. This was my escape, not just from Daniel's betrayal, but from the quiet, suffocating life I had allowed myself to fall into. I was rediscovering the woman I had once been, and for the first time in a long time, it felt good. It was as though I had taught myself a lesson, one I hadn't expected to learn. In seeking a way to feel wanted again, I had discovered a new sense of strength, a new sense of freedom. And perhaps, in some twisted way, I had found a sense of peace. Daniel may have been lost to me, but I was finding myself once more.